Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro,
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined by the OG Torgrud.
I'm back. I think I had a 2-week absence, so that's pretty rare, but I'm here, happy to be here, a little tired, but, you know, we move.
And the GB, Gian Busia.
Oh, I like that. Good to be back. Finally, a bit more regular. It's been a bit all over the place last few weeks.
Yeah, so is everything, mate. You know, everything's a mess at the moment by the seams of it. But we're here, and we've got plenty to recap. I guess
is this the 6th week in a row we've had a different lineup for hosts?
Could be. We're mixing it up like Ranieri.
Yeah, something like that.
The Tinkerman. That could be the title, the Tinkerman. But well, it's a pleasure, lads. This is obviously the best lineup possible, and I'm sure everyone in the comments will agree with that.
No Maddie talking about Everton. No, I'm joking.
So we're here. We've got some football to talk about, which is brilliant. We've got a new signing to talk about that wasn't even mentioned in any of the previous episodes because it came out of nowhere. We've got a couple of signings confirmed that we knew were going to happen. We've got some strong links that have come on in the last few days. It's basically that mental time where pre-season's begun, we've played our first friendly, and also there's all the transfer shit still going on at the same time. So it's quite a fun time to be covering the club at the moment. And I feel like people's excitement's slowly returning after the Euros, which we're not mentioning. I'm glad Stefano's not here, that's all I'm saying. Yeah, I know. We haven't recorded since.
It's coming Rome!
Well, let's move on. On to the most important game in July so far. Milan started their pre-season on Saturday evening at Milanello. They played on the bottom pitch. They always play the first pre-season game on the bottom pitch, and I don't even know why. It might be the best one, but whatever. Preseason came, and they are, a Serie C side, so maybe you can't read too much into this game, apart from its minutes in the legs. It's something different to the training that we've been doing, to get fitness levels up. It's match practice. It's also a chance to try out 2 different 11s in the 45 minutes, which is what we did. We won 6-0. Just to recap for those who didn't see it, Benacer scored the first goal with a shot from outside the box in off the post. That was a nice one. Leao got one-on-one with his man and then cut inside, curled one in to make it 2-0. The third goal came Samu Castillejo on his left foot from 25 yards out.
Probably just playing it like his level of football now.
Yeah, that's fair. Has he put himself in the shop window with a goal like that? That's what I want to know. I'm sure Paolo Maldini was answering all the phone calls in the world from middle to bottom end La Liga clubs when that goal went in. Castillejo scored. And then we had what's been given as an own goal, but essentially hit the post with a shot, it rebounded back. Pobega hit the post with a rebound, and then it got turned into his own net by a defender. And then Milos Kerkez scored twice in the last couple of minutes when Preseason, who, to be honest, resembled a pub team, they were flat out on their ass, which is to be understood. It was very hot, and it was a 90-minute game when everyone's just come back for pre-season. So I'm not surprised that in the end our quality kind of shone through.
I'm quite surprised it was 90 minutes because last season 40-40.
Yeah.
Were it Navarra that we played last season?
We played, weirdly, our first pre-season last season was 3 periods to 20 minutes.
That's right.
Because I think they were kind of scared of overdoing it a bit. But I think, based on what I've read, we're trying things a bit different this season from an athletic point of view. First of all, we had a shortened pre-season last season, which should be beared in mind after lockdown and stuff with shortened break. But secondly, obviously, we're having to welcome back players in batches after the Euros and new signings and all that, and players coming back from injury. But yeah, we're just going to try and do things differently because whatever we did last season didn't work. So let's do things different, which I agree with. So it was nice to see a 90-minute game of football. I enjoyed it in the same way that it's like wave after wave of attack, and it was just like, how many are we going to score? And then you look around the league, and we were saying before recording, Roma and Lazio both won 10-0, I think. Napoli won 12-0 in their pre-season game. And Inter drew with Lugano. So that's fun. Hopefully that's an indictment of what's to come. But, I mean, I know, Gian, you watched part of the game. AJ, I don't think you watched it, did you?
I watched a very brief amount while I was getting ready for the day.
Understandable. To summarise, first half, I thought we played well. That was our stronger 11. We stayed with Leao up front, which I found a bit baffling. I thought we might have mixed it around a little bit. But that was definitely our better half with more quality out there. 3 goals didn't flatter us at all. Second half, I would say, was a bit more frustrating because we wasted a lot of chances before the last 15 minutes. Hauge hit the post when he should have definitely scored, and there were a couple more where we hit it over the bar or shanked it across goal or whatever. And in the end, the 2 late goals from Kirkes turned it from a 4-0 to a 6-0, and we're all happy and smiling. So it's not a results thing, but
personally feel a little bit sorry for Capone because obviously he just got his contract extension and he found himself in the right places, but he just dragged it a bit wide. And you know what Milan Twitter are like. He should probably be sent to the slums of Serie D now and never see Milan shit again. But at the end of the day, he got in the right position. So just a bit unfortunate. But it looks a bit bright from how the Primavera have been playing last season. I thought they kind of did well in the second half from the bits that I'd seen. I mainly watched the first half because that were with the first team players playing, but I thought they did all right to play against grown men. There is still a bit of a difference when you're 16, 17 playing against grown men that are in the mid-20s towards the 30s. I thought they did all right.
Yeah, I thought they did. We actually got the question from King Kaka, only the first pre-season game, but have you seen anyone from the Primavera that looks ready to make the jump? Now, ready to make the jump is a big statement. You can't say that after one pre-season game against Prosesto, but there were some players that I thought were kind of impressive in there. And he doesn't count as Primavera anymore, but I thought Pobega looked really sharp in that second half. We played him in a double pivot, which is what everybody's been wanting us to do. Again, I know level of opponent and all that, but he looked like he could play the role. Like he looked like he understood it from a positional point of view. He was good, and the guy who played in the pivot with him, De Jesus, he looked very, very good as well. Tidy player, busy, reminded me a bit of Benacer. Busy, could be a bit tidy in possession, but you know there's something there to build off. And then the rest of the team, I suppose Daniel Maldini, he got an assist actually, so that's a little positive as well.
I'd say he looked comfortable in his role that he was playing. Like you said with Pobega, he just looked comfortable in it. He were winning the ball back. He tried driving forward a bit. He was making some nice little passes. I suppose he did all right. Leao for me was, if there was a standout in the first half, Leao caught my eye. He were constantly tracking back. He was up and down the field. And it's not something you really associate with Leao too much, but I suppose from a lazy point of view, like the way that we talk about him, he were active. I know it's only against a Serie C side, but he had a positive attitude at least.
And the thing with Leao is he got slated by not slated. He got picked out by Tuttosport, who did like a review of the game, and they were saying that Leao had he was only on for 45 minutes, so it was like a first half of 2 halves, if that makes sense. The first 25 minutes or wherever, he was bright, he was all over the place, he got his goal, and then from then on he drifted out of the game, and they actually said that Pioli was getting annoyed at him for drifting out to the left side again. I don't know if they mean that as in like figuratively he would have been annoyed by it, or he was actually shouting from the sidelines, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't think he looked too bad. Do you know, there was some play, I mean, Benacer and Teo Hernandez stuck out for me as like, holy shit, they were going, like their engines were already revving. They looked like they wanted to prove something regardless of who we were playing against. Teo was superb in that first half. And then, Benacer, there was always going to be a little bit of a worry that after his foot surgery, and we know the injury problems he had last season, that he might take a little bit of time to get going, but he looked pretty good. As I said, the big games are yet to come. You know, we've got Nice away from home, which will be a good test. Looks like we're going to be playing Juve and Real Madrid as well, and then we've got Valencia, who we're going to be playing at the Mestalla. So those are the games where you learn a bit more about the shape of the team and stuff. But it was a good run out, you know. Minutes in the legs is what's important. And now we get another week of preparations, and some players will start to come back towards the end of this month as well. Their post-Euros holidays. Obviously, Pioli's preparing without either Ibra or Giroud at the moment. So spare a thought for him. He's operating without a number 9, but yeah, he did all right yesterday. So yeah, speaking of Giroud has signed permanently now. That was announced yesterday. As expected, 2-year deal with option for a 3rd year, 1 million plus 1 million bonuses. Just thought we'd better mention it. I know we talked about it a bit last week. Actually, AJ wasn't here. I'll ask AJ for his opinion on the signing of OG.
It's the most handsome man in sport, so I'm all for it.
Respect to all backers.
I'm just trying to think. I don't think there is anyone else, is there, who even comes close.
I mean, you can say Beckham, but he's retired. That's the only guy I'd feather to him. But
what am
I mean, I guess it looks irrelevant. No, I think it's a great signing. I think he's going to come up for us. I think he always came through for Chelsea when they needed him, and they obviously won the Champions League. So why can't he do the same for us? Plus, if Zlatan's going to be out for a few games to start the season, like it's a perfect way to go for us. I'm happy.
I think
we don't. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Personally, for me, like everyone's kind of talking about Giroud as a backup, but I'm starting to get the feeling that he's going to be the starter. And I think I touched on it a bit last week, and I'm all right with that. I think he's genuinely going to score a lot of goals in Serie A compared to what we've had anyway. I think he could be someone that's at 15 goals by the end of the season, just in Serie A alone.
Do you get Dzeko vibes from him? Dzeko really was underappreciated at Man City, came over here and was like, oh my God, this league's a piece of piss if you're a big man.
Yeah, exactly like him, to be fair. And he's just, at times when I've seen him for Chelsea and Arsenal, he acts a bit like a donkey up top. But his finishing's amazing. Like, if he gets in the right position, like, his shooting's second to none, and you always get the feeling that he's going to score. And I really like him, and I genuinely think that as long as the service is right to him, I think he could score a lot of goals for us. And I think he'll end up being our number 1 choice.
I would like to see him in a 2-striker formation, him and Zlatan up top. I think that'd be fun. I think that's enjoyable.
Personally, my biggest worry is them two playing up top together. I feel like if either of them up top by themselves, whether it's hold up play or getting on the balls in and around the area, I think that's where they both shine. But playing together, I hope they don't get under each other's feet. I'd rather see Ibra up top or Giroud up top with, Leal playing off them, Diaz playing off them, or potentially Caio, George playing off them. I personally can't see it working up top together, but I hope I'm wrong because you've got 2 gods up front.
It'd be amazing to see if, we kept talking about this hypothetical situation where we'd need Ibra and Mandzukic both in the box at the same time if we're chasing a goal late on or whatever, just to have 2 target men in there to aim at. But I agree, starting, if you're going to have 2 up front, you want them to have some kind of different characteristics. We saw Ibra and Leal work up front together. Ibra and Rebic have worked up front together as well. I personally wouldn't put 2 centre forwards up front in a 2-striker formation. Tuttosport came out with some bizarre thing about how in possession against Pro Sesto, why they're reading so much into it, I don't know. But in possession against them, we played a 3-5-2, which maybe points towards the idea that they'll play together. But I don't understand the point of that, because if they were to ever start a game together, what are we bringing off the bench?
I think that were very lazy journalism just because they saw that Gabby had started at right back. That's the only thing that I can get behind, because from the first half that I saw, Gabby was a right back. He wasn't really drifting into the centre, and I wouldn't say Castillejo played as like a right wing back. It was pretty much a 4-2-3-1 in my eyes, anyway. And then I think that's just a bit of lazy journalism. They saw 3 centre backs starting in the defence, and they thought, let's make a storyline 3-5-2.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. And yeah, this thing about Castillejo, he definitely was not a wing back at all. If anything, he operated more like centrally. You see where he scored his goal from. And then Gabir actually had a solid shift, I will say that, at right back. It's not his usual position. But the reason he played there is because who else were we meant to play there? Calabria's still recovering from injury. Kalulu's away at the Olympics. All you can do is drag someone up from the Primavera, I guess. But why not give Gabbia some minutes there?
I do kind of think that the players that did start the first half, they're pretty much in pure list plans for next year. Whether the fans want to hear it or not, I don't think right wing's the main target like everyone seems to think. And Krunic is going to be whether, again, we like it or not, he's a good versatility depth option. And the senior players that played in the second half, Haug, Pobega, Calder and Conte, I suppose they are kind of fighting for the future with the club.
I'm looking back at that second half 11 because I'd forgotten it. Obviously, Plizzari, a lot of people had forgotten he was back at the club. Conte, I don't know, he wasn't great. He didn't stand out, let's say, amongst a team of basically kids. I think his days might still be numbered, especially if we accelerate for a right back now. Now we've started the left back, which we'll come on to. Stanger's got a bright future. He just signed a new deal fairly recently. But Caldara, he's one, as you mentioned, who's fighting for his future. Kirke's really young. I don't think he was ever ready to be the backup left back. Obviously, we've signed one now. But he was impressive. Dijesu, I've already mentioned. Robat looked a bit like he was trying too hard. Any bit of space he got, he was shooting, and he wasn't really on it. And then, we've kind of mentioned Capone, Hauger, and Colombo up front was nice to see for the second half, but I still think that we end up loaning him out, especially if we get that third striker in. That makes a lot of sense.
How did Caldara look?
He didn't get tested.
He didn't get tested, but then from what I'd seen, his passing, like the passing range, I thought it was pretty poor for someone that's we're playing for the Champions League team last year. I thought against Serie C side, he should be, making every single pass, especially when he's not being tested. It should be fairly good.
With no pressure.
Yeah,
that's a bummer. I had such high hopes for him. I really wanted him to succeed.
I think last month or maybe the month before, I said that I think he's going to be the player that we keep and kind of refines his form sort of and stands out a bit, and he's a good fifth choice option. But I suppose he's high wages.
I can see it, and especially if we do make this switch to a 3-4-1-2 or something ridiculous like that, it makes sense. We're going to need to have that many center backs. So I wouldn't be shocked if he stays.
I know this is stating the obvious, but if he does stay as our fifth choice centre back, I hope he doesn't get the playing time to refine his form, which I know sounds harsh. I hope we're not in an injury crisis enough where we have to play our fifth choice centre back.
I hope we're not. I would still if it means he refines his form, then I guess I'm kind of all for it, because then you've just got a fifth choice quality centre back.
Poor Kalulu down there at number 6. Would you consider loaning him out now? If we are going to keep Caldara around, would you loan Kalulu out?
Yeah. I think I would, just because everyone seems to think Kalulu's the right back, but I preferred him at centre back personally last season. The games he played, I preferred him at centre back to right back. I thought he was fairly poor. Or not poor, average at right back. From a personal perspective, that's what I thought. I thought he did a good job at centre back. It's just his height that lets him down.
Yeah, and he ain't going to... Well, I don't think he's going to grow so much now, but he is literally the perfect right-sided centre-back in a back three. The problem is that we ain't got anywhere for him to slot in like that at the moment. I don't know. I can see the temptation to loan him out, but I think it's not a sign of giving up on a player, but we fought so hard to snatch him from Lyon, and he made actually more appearances than we were expecting last season, and he didn't have a disaster in any of them despite his age and lack of a senior game before that. So I think you keep him around on merit, to be honest. I still maybe like pre-season puts Caldara in the shop window a little bit as well. And some team like a Verona or whoever's been sniffing around thinks, we'll give this guy one last shot, because that's what he's on at the moment, given how bad his injury record's been recently. Just give him one more chance.
I suppose it's a bit like everyone will say, sell Castillo, sell Krunic, sell Caldara, but if other clubs aren't willing to buy him, you're not going to... It's hard to sell him, so maybe you send Kalulu out on loan for a year at a Serie A club, get used to the league, get a club that's going to get you plenty of minutes, And then if Caldara, if he's got a year left on his contract, 2 years left, if you can't sell him, you just keep him around and don't hinder the development of a youngster. Let him go out on loan and then just use him as a backup. Because I think that's been our biggest mistake in recent years. We keep these young players around saying you're going to get minutes, and then they don't get them and they don't progress like you want them to.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. We need to figure that out sooner rather than later, ideally. Thankfully, I don't know when Kier's going to come back. I've seen a couple of dates as to when he comes back from his holiday, but that should mean that Caldara will get at least another game to see where he's at, and hopefully Kalulu does well at the Olympics. He's there with a talented French group, which I think can only help him playing competitive games, and then he'll come back hopefully in sort of game rhythm for the season ahead. One thing that we've mentioned so many times is we're set to play over 45, potentially 50 games next season. Every useful body that we have in that squad, as last season proved, is going to be exactly that. They're going to be useful, hopefully. And you can see with what's happened in the market so far, we've gone about addressing depth like off the bat rather than going for first 11 upgrades. I still think those upgrades will come. Like, we do need another number 10. Everybody knows that. We do need that fourth choice midfield spot. We do need a backup right back, probably, if Conte does go. And if Castillo goes, we do need another right winger. Those are still things that we need. But you can see the strategy right off the bat has been to make sure that we've got the depth for what should be a pretty challenging season. Right. New signing. We've never mentioned his name before on this podcast. That's how out of the blue this one was. But sort of back end of last week, wasn't it, when it came about that we were in intense talks with Monaco over the signing of Fode Ballo-Toure.
I think it was just after me and Steph recorded the podcast, it came out.
Yeah, right, early last week then.
Yeah.
And then it moved very quickly once it became apparent that we were talking a difference of 1 or 2 million on the transfer fee. But he's here as per most of the reliable sources, they are. He's signed for around about 4.2 million, and there's some bonuses, around about 500k of bonuses. After being linked with various left-back targets, we've finally got our guy. As a bit of a bio, I looked it up before I started recording, but I think he's 24 years old.
Yeah, he's 24. For
Monaco,
played in the French league, a few other clubs, but I think he started at PSG, right?
He did the Maignan. So basically, he was in the PSG youth sector, moved to Lille, found his form, and then his big move was to Monaco. And do you know what? Like, yes, his best season so far was definitely at Lille in 2018-19. There's no doubt about that. But he certainly didn't vanish at Monaco either. He made over 20 league appearances in each of the last 2 seasons. He's not known for his attacking output, as his numbers show. But I've heard good things. I've heard that he's a solid backup option to have. He's quick, fairly physical, kind of a dynamic left back. The bottom line is none of us have seen that much of him. And I kind of like when a player like this arrives,
It's like like no one knew anything.
It's a blank slate in a way, and we're all like, all right, we've not paid that much of a fee for this guy, so let's just see what he can do. And he will hopefully get minutes in the next preseason game.
Let me ask you this though about that fee, because it's 4 mil. We know he's a backup. He's not that young, but he's still considered a young player. But we know he's not going to be the starter, and we say it's a low fee. We're all pretty happy. Giroud was half that fee. He's proven. He's known across the world, but he's a little bit older. People are mad that we paid 2 million.
He's a decade older. I think the thing with Giroud as well is obviously Ballo-Toure was under contract, and the Giroud thing is we were going to get him on a free, and then Chelsea were dicks or / clever and extended his deal for a year, and then said give us a few million. So in the end, fans are maybe a bit pissed that we've had to pay a little bit, but I mean it's negligible. Is 1 million plus a few bonuses.
I agree. I've been seeing a lot of people say, oh, this Ballo-Toure deal, it's so cheap, and then the Giroud one, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And I'm like, it's half of what we just paid. Like, I don't know.
For the name value.
Exactly.
Can't imagine. I mean, this sounds so harsh, but I can't imagine Ballo-Toure selling many shirts. But you know, who knows? He might become a fan favourite when we sell Theo to PSG.
Ballo. When that's perfect.
That's fantastic. And also,
he's happy to be here. I watched that video where he greeted some young fan, and the kid gave him like a sign that he made, said, you know, welcome to Milan or whatever, and he seemed pretty happy about it. So, you know, I hope him the best. I don't think we're going to see a lot of minutes from him, though.
I think, personally, my only concern with it is we've signed a player that is potentially not going to be around in January, and we've signed him for the sole purpose of being a depth option, but we're not going to have him in, arguably, which is one of the hardest parts of the season, I think, just after Christmas, where it's your transfer market, everyone's trying to get a few points in, and we've got Juve, Roma and Inter, is it, and he's potentially not there for it. That's the only bit that lets down the transfer for me. But obviously, he can't help his nationality. But
how does nationality is French?
He played France under 21 level,
yeah,
and then
he's
switched.
Senegalese.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So he's not going to be here while the AFCON's going on. So
yeah.
For me, that's the only downside for it.
Need him during that.
You hope not.
I think those are games we're starting Teo no matter what.
Yeah, if
you
he's
think
fit.
Not, but it's again like if we get back to the point we were last season.
Yeah.
Like
Milos Kirk has his time to shine in the derby.
Maybe it is, but the Ballo-Toure thing, then again, like the money that we've sold Laxalt for we've replaced him with Ballo-Toure, which looks like
a solid,
an upgrade, I suppose, by the way that people rate him and stuff like that. The genuine people that have seen him, not just a 5-minute YouTube comp, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I haven't even seen that, to be honest. I've seen nothing.
I've watched some bits and bats for obvious reasons. We're going to have a player analysis on the site at some point early next week. Obviously, recording on Sunday, but check that out if you want to know more about the player. We also got a Giroud one on there. I mean, people know who he is, but there's some stuff about what he'll bring to the team. So check out that one as well. I can reveal my semi-interesting stories from this Fode Ballo-Toure thing. I think I can anyway. So I was speaking back in January with the agent of SempreMilan, as people may remember from the tweets and stuff. And I randomly got sent through some photos on WhatsApp. And he was like, oh, here you go. Ballo-Toure's just joined Milan. And there's just like pictures of him holding a Milan shirt and stuff. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. Cheers. Like, we know they're all over Twitter kind of thing. And then he sent some where it was like him holding a Milan shirt with two random guys stood either side of him. So I was like, "Oh, cool. Who are the guys?" And he was like, "Oh, that's his father on the left." And I'm like, "Cool. And who's the guy on the right?" And he's like, "That's me." I had no idea they shared an agent. I didn't even know. I'd never even clocked that it was the same guy. So apologies if you're listening to this, Toure's agent. But yeah, that was a funny one. Yeah, he's a lovely guy though. To be fair to him, and trying to get him to get us an interview with him for the site as well. So that would be good if that came through. Right, what have we got? So Brahim Diaz will become signing number 6 tomorrow. He did his medical today. Signed his contract today. So that'll take us up to 6 signings for the summer. What I want to do is quickly go through, because we got a question from Darren Torres. How would you rate the Mercato so far, and what would it need to be a 10? I don't think it's fair to rate the Mercato overall, because there are so many different nuances to it. Like, I could say Giroud's a 6 out of 10, but then if we sign a young striker, it becomes an 8 out of 10 deal. And Brahim's a 6 out of 10, but if we sign another number 10, then it looks better. So we'll just go through and rate each signing so far quickly. Chronological, we'll start with Mike Maignan. Shall I go first, or
whoever? We could go first. It's fine.
Right, I'll go first. I'm giving this one like an 8 out of 10. It could be more, but you know, I suppose it could be more. But I guess we've not seen him play in Serie A yet. That's the only thing. And some people still hurt about the Donnarumma thing, which I don't really get. But if we're judging this player objectively, for the money that we've saved based on what it would have cost to renew Donnarumma, the fact that he kept the most clean sheets in his league, he helped his team to a title against all the odds. He looks like everything you would want when replacing a world-class goalkeeper. I think we've replaced a world-class goalkeeper with a world-class goalkeeper, or a very, very high-end goalkeeper anyway, and saved a lot of money in doing so. So I can't wait to see him in action, and yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to give him a 10 out of 10, to be honest. I mean, we signed him. There was not a day where we didn't have a goalkeeper, at least a starting goalkeeper. You know, as soon as we knew Gigio was going to be a cunt, we had a backup already. We just announced it. And significantly cheaper. He's actually won titles. He's got swag, and he doesn't have just some pubes on his chin. You know, like he looks like a man. So that's nice. And, yeah, he's not a snake. So 10 out of 10.
Yes.
And I'm not bitter at all.
I think I'm going to go 6.5 or 7 out of 10. Only because I'm not going to lie, I haven't seen him in action properly as far as the goalkeeper goes. Like, I hope he comes in and does what that dick of a thing did for us. And yeah, but I'm not going to pretend that I've seen him much. And I don't know. I find it hard to rate him any higher because number 99 did do quite a lot for us last season at times and in the past, so it's hard to give him too much. And I don't know, 6.5, 7 out of 10 maybe.
We're in the point, aren't we, where we can only rate based on the operation and the cost and the value for money rather than what they're actually going to do for us, which makes the next two a bit easier. One thing I will say is Donnarumma won the Euros as a free agent, technically, which is quite funny. Who else won
the Euros? Just
the ref. I mean, that was a red card all day on Saka. No, I'm not. I'm not one of those. Can we replay the game?
Won it. Chiellini's a free agent right now too.
Is he?
Yeah. I thought he extended by a year.
Yeah, I thought he got extended.
I'm pretty sure he's a free agent right now. Maybe they're going to, and they just haven't announced it. Kind of like the Messi deal. How he's technically still a free agent, but it's been done. But yeah, I think he's a free agent.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. No, well, Fab said that he will sign a new deal next
and I'm sure it will.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. I thought they'd given him another year.
Yeah.
It's even funny that England lost a bunch of free agents.
Italians. Yeah.
Really bad. Moving on. Was it Tomori or Tonali? Tomori first, wasn't
Tomori
it?
next, yeah.
So Tomori, 28 million option to buy triggered, and he's here. This one's a fairly straightforward one, I think. Nobody can argue that he's not worth the money, even just from a financial investment point of view. His market value is 50 mil plus already, so it's a bargain. Chelsea gutted to lose him, and understandably so. Their loss is our gain. If he can keep up those levels of performances next season, this is absolutely a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you've got no arguments from me there.
What is the downside? What could the downside be? There is none. You know, unless these mistakes become a bit more. But again, we're going on speculation there rather than what we've seen. Yeah. It's just a masterstroke of an operation, especially given that it's been reported we managed to spread the payment over 3 years as well. So
I think when you look at, is it Arsenal that have just signed Ben White for like double the fee, nearly 2 times and a half, like, and this is no disrespect to Ben White, but Tomori's clear and we've got him for a steal. Like, it's hats off to the management there.
Full disrespect to Ben White. Like, who the fuck is a Ben White? Like, what is that?
Nobody knew who he was until like
it's the most English name possible.
That's what I'm saying. That's the guy that I always played tetherball with in 3rd grade. Like, it's a nobody. Come on now.
I can't wait until he's an England international and everyone gets to laugh at how much they paid for him. He might do all right, but anyway, anyone would look good in Arsenal's defence at the moment, let's be honest. What we're on? Tonali now. I suppose what we've seen isn't the same as Tomori in the sense that there's still a little bit of doubt about his overall ability. He is, however, 21 years of age, and he does deserve the time to adapt and stuff. I will mention that in that process stuff friendly, he was a little bit not with it. He didn't look, to be firing on all cylinders at all, especially not next to Benacer, who was all over the place. I'm still going to give this an 8 out of 10 based on the operation itself. The fact that we managed to secure a discount, and the fact that we've swindled it the way that we have makes this a really good business deal. And then we have to hope that the confidence, etc., is turned into and is rewarded with good performances. And I don't even mind Alza going the other way because it essentially functions as a loan spell for him because we can just buy him back whenever. As an operation, I'll give that one an 8 out of 10. I think we've done really well.
Yeah, I was going to reiterate basically all that. I mean, the fact we agreed upon an option last season and then magically got that cut by like 20 mil, something ridiculous, and now we're paying single-digit millions for him. Like it's a steal. So 8 or 9 out of 10 to me.
Yeah, I'll give it an 8. Obviously, there's a lot of potential there. The deal itself is fantastic. I just hope he improves on his performances from last season, because I don't know what, like, personally, I don't know what half of Milan Twitter have seen, but I wouldn't say that he was a shoo-in or a walk into the starting 11 like some may say he was. I thought he was average, but again, that's just an adaptation period for him, and he's very young, so not being too critical of him, but performance-wise, I'm happy with. Business-wise, I'm happy we've got him. Performance-wise, I'm glad we've got the lower end of the deal and it being sorted.
Yeah, the best way to describe Tonali's first season is that he had far more "holy shit, what are you doing" moments than "holy shit, that's amazing," you know. And we've got to hope that that pendulum swings next season, because otherwise people are going to be like, "Oh."
I actually think if it wasn't for that last-minute block with it in the Roma game,
yeah,
it wouldn't be made out to be as great as he has been. Like, but his personal point of view, I don't know if he even fits the double pivot system. I think maybe in the three-man midfield where he shined at ratio might suit him better, but only time will tell.
Can't build your team around him though at the moment, can you? And that's the difficult thing. You can't say we're going to switch this to get the best out of 21. I think he definitely got time to adapt, 100%. And if we're going to give Pobega that time to adapt in pre-season and stuff, he'll get it as well. Giroud, we've kind of touched upon all the reasons we like it. Cheap deal, winner, champion mentality. Ibra's even happy, he said it in the media as well. The wages are relatively cheap for someone coming from the Premier League who's just won the Champions League. 2 years, option for the third if things are going really well. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. The only two down marks on this for me are real shades of us potentially falling into the same problem next season if we don't sign a young striker. I've been like, holy shit, we've got 2 guys over 34. And we could have done with someone young, you know. But on paper, this is a good no-brainer operation.
Yeah, I'm a big Giroud fanboy. I think that's not a surprise to anyone. But I would 6.5, maybe a 7, just because I don't know if it's what we need to get us over the line. I think it's going to help, but unless that young striker comes in or another striker, I think it's just it's another body on the team sheet.
I'd probably give it a 7.5, maybe pushing an 8, just because last season, if you look at January, the thing that let us down the most was not having a backup to Ibra. Obviously, we had Mandzukic, but not having a striker that could maybe score us goals, and that'll be what let us down. I guess maybe in the pursuit of the title, or definitely securing top 4 a lot earlier, and I think Giroud's a big upgrade on Mandzukic, and I think he's going to score quite a few goals in Serie A, and I think for the amount that it's cost us, I think it's a brilliant deal.
Some good scores all around there. So I suppose Fode Ballo-Toure is next. As mentioned, we don't know too much about the player. We've not watched him week in, week out by any means. So all we can do is really judge the business side of this. Since Gian put it as the lax out money going towards a younger replacement, a replacement as well who has certainly had some impressive spells in his career and has bounced around the top clubs in France. It's not like he came from a nothing club. Clearly teams keep seeing something in him. Happy to be here. Cheap, youngish, low wages, happy days. But just because, I don't know, just because it's perhaps not really exciting, I'll give it a 7, just because I have a few reservations as well about whether he can get back to them levels that he hit in 2018. That's 3 years ago now, so he needs to put some more credit in the bank, I think. So I'll give it a 7.
I'm going to go with a 5, and that seems a bit harsh, but it's just because I don't know anything about him. I've never seen him play. The first game was on Sunday, so it's hard for me to really give an in-depth analysis. Like, I could say it's good business because it's cheap, but what if he's god-awful and now it looks like $4 million was way too much for this kid, you know? So I don't know. And he's at an age where it's like you're not really taking a punt on a youngster so much as you're like, hey, this guy should be in his prime. So I don't know. I mean, I trust Maldini. If anyone's going to know a quality left back, it's him. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's just a 5 for me because I don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's literally 5. The only reason it's probably not lower is I'm kind of looking at it in a way as a swap with Laxalt, I suppose, just because it's some money used from him. We haven't paid over the odds, and that's literally it. A bit annoyed that, like I said, that he's going to the AFCON, potentially going to the AFCON, and we're going to be without a left back for it if Teo gets injured. So, yeah, 5. I'm not, again, don't really know him enough to give him any more.
I'm knocking it down to a 6. I'm knocking it down to a 6 because I forgot the AFCON thing. That's a very valid point. If we're going to be without a deputy left back for a month.
It's like, if anything...
Can I change mine to a 3 because I don't like double-barrelled names? No, Aubrey does really well, though, genuinely. Like, he's a lovely kid. And his agent's a great man as well.
Everyone usually high scores like, oh, yeah, fuck this kid.
I suppose the only good thing coming from it is the fact that we were all kind of a bit sceptical about Teo at the time. I mean, some people could pretend that they weren't, but from what I remember, most people were a bit sceptical, and we all said, let's just add in, because if he knows a good left back, then, you know, back it, and he's turned out to be one of our best players, so hopefully Ballo-Toure follows the same kind of path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the final one is Brahim Diaz. So the structure of this deal it's not an easy one. It's a 2-year loan, 3 million loan fee, 22 million option to buy. So let's say we exercise that, it becomes 25 million in total. Real Madrid have a buyback at 27 million that they can only use in the summer of 2023. Now, I sort of went to task on the club on Twitter by saying, I can't believe we've negotiated for a 2-year dry loan, and then it came out that we still have kept the option to buy. So that's all good. Now, I like this because it is incredibly low risk. We get to see for 2 years whether this guy can adapt to Serie A, by which time he'll only be 23, so on the cusp of his prime. That option to buy, let's say he adapts well in the next 2 years, that option to buy is going to be a snip because we can see the talent that he has. We can see how gifted he is as a footballer. We can see that. He started to contribute towards the end of the season, so that gives us a little bit of comfort. And then if Real Madrid do end up buying him back, which I always think it's unlikely that teams use these buyback clauses, if they do end up buying him back, then we earn ourselves a little development fee, and we perhaps know the mould of player that we can go for moving forward. So I think this is good. I'm going to have to mark down the buyback, and I know that's hypocritical based on what I've just said, but it would have been nice to have that. You know, if he's good, then he's ours for good. You know what I mean? Like Tomori, for example. But I'm still saying that this is a very low risk operation. It's a 2-year try before you buy, and I like that. So it gets 7.5 for me.
Yeah, this gets a 5. I like Brahim. I think it's fantastic. In fact, I'm confident that we're going to activate that option. But I'm also confident that Madrid's going to operate theirs. So I don't know. It seems like a waste to me. It's like, yeah, rarely do teams activate their buybacks, but the last big name team to activate one was Madrid, Morata, and then Juve just had to buy him again for twice as much. So I feel like they're gonna pull some shit on us like that. Like, he's gonna perform, like you said, he's gonna be entering his prime. He's gonna be 23. It's a nice loan. That's great. Get him on the cheap, and then we lose him for just a little bit more. And it's developmental fee, and then we either buy him right back or we're back on the hunt. So I don't know. It's an annoying deal more than anything, but I'm happy.
I see where
he's
you're
here.
coming from.
I think for me, it's probably a 6.5 out of 10. Performances looked good towards the end of the season, but for the majority, I wouldn't say they were anything special. A bit like Tonali, I suppose. The buy option and the buyback clause is a bit irrelevant to me because we could try exercise that buyout option, and he just says, "No, I want to go back to Madrid," and he can not sign a contract. Same as we can exercise it, and he says, "Yeah, I want to stay at Real Madrid," then try, bring him back, and he's just like, "Nah, I want to stay at Milan." I think if we buy him and they've got to use that option that summer, there's no way that he's gonna then go back to Madrid. Otherwise, they just be like, cancel the loan. We're not going to waste all that time just for 2 million worth of games. So I'm fairly confident if he does well, we keep him, and that's him with us for good. If he does then he goes back.
Yeah, we should say at this point it has been very well documented that Brahim Diaz's dream, as much as he's happy to come back here on loan, his dream as a player, as a kid when he was growing up, is to make it at Real Madrid. If he thinks he's got a shot at doing that at any point, then I'd say fair play to him. But at the same time, if I'm Maldini and it comes to it in 2 years' time, I'd be saying, just remember how they treated you, when they couldn't wait to loan you out to us. But I don't know. Sometimes you can't stand in the way of what a player wants. So if
you
he starts to...
And at least being honest with Real Madrid, we know how much money they've got. And if they want to buy, the next 20-year-old in 2 years' time that they think's better than Brahim, they will, and they won't even think about giving him any time. So I don't know. I think the buyback options, they don't really, like I said, they don't really bother me too much. It's more to the will of the player than it is what the clubs want to do, more than anything in these situations.
Right, I want to move on to some quick-fire questions. Quick-fire-ish, anyway. Giovanni Fici, basically, Giroud's taken the 9. Do you believe in the number 9 curse, or is it just the bad players who've worn it since? So, what I want to do quickly is run down the list.
It's not just bad players; it's a genuine curse.
Right, let me go down it. So, Pato wore it. So, this is since Inzaghi retired in 2012. Pato wore the number 9 briefly before switching numbers. 0 goals in 4 games. Yeah. Matri won in 15. Torres won in 10. Destro 3 in 15. Luis Adriano 4 in 26. Lapadula 8 in 27. He's probably the best. Andre Silva 2 in 24. Higuain 6 in 15. Maybe it was him. Piontek 4 in 18. Obviously, he switched from the 19. And then Mandzukic 0 in 10 last season. So do we believe in the curse, or is it just crap players who've won the number? Higuain, no, but,
I mean, obviously curses aren't real. But yeah, there's some weird shit every time.
Lukaku, mate. Voodoo.
Okay. Yeah, voodoo's real. Curses aren't.
Fuck your voodoo, bitch.
There's been some players that have worn the 9 that have been unsavory that no one anticipated much to happen from. Luis Adriano, Matri, those are examples of that. But there's been some good players. I don't know anyone who wasn't excited about Mandzukic, about Higuain. I'm obviously excited about Andre Silva. Like, Pato was fantastic up until he switched to 9. Granted, he had his injuries, and then he made a switch, and it was like, oh, no, you suck. Piontek was fantastic before he was 9. Like, Fernando Torres is one of the greatest players of all time, and he's just been trash ever since he went to Chelsea. Yep. So, I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff. Adriano was always going to be bang average, so that's not too shocking. But, yeah.
I personally don't believe in it, and I think there's got to be some context to the players that have won it and the amount of games that they've played and goals that they've scored. Like, obviously, Pato, I'd never... If I believed in the curse, I wouldn't even put Pato in that bracket playing 4 games. But then you look at, like, Torres, he came when he was a finished player. Destro was more of a substitute, like a bench player. Higuain, 6 and 15, I don't think that's bad. Matri was a bench player. Mandzukic, how many minutes did he play? I don't even think it equates to a full 90-minute game. Or maybe 2 full 90 minutes. I think there's got to be a bit of context into the amount of games they've played and stuff like that. I don't really believe in it. I think we've had trash players, and hopefully Giroud just puts the end to all the nonsense behind it.
Yeah. I said in the chat, like, I wouldn't have minded if... because this curse thing is going to be talked about in the media no matter what, because they love stirring shit, I wouldn't have minded if we signed a Caio Jorge type player and gave him the 9, just because people would be like, oh, well, we can't call this a curse if this kid fails because he's not going to get many minutes. And, you give him it almost knowing that it nullifies any idea of the curse because he's not expected to score 20 goals a season.
See, personally, I disagree with that because if anything, there's a bit extra pressure on the fact that he's got to break the 9 curse from the media. A bit like when Paqueta joined us and we created that Brazilian Twitter account for him, and there was all the hype behind him being the new Kaká. That were a bit too much pressure for him, and I think the media presenting it as like, he's the new number 9. He's got to break the case. He'll be the new Pato, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't want that being too much pressure for a youngster.
He wears the 9 at Santos, I've just seen.
It's a Brazilian league.
No, but Santos.
Santos
have produced some pretty good number 9s, Pele being one of them.
Yeah, also...
Brazil have produced some pretty good number 10s, and Mercato, joined us. So,
yeah.
For me,
I know what you mean.
Giroud's a perfect person, someone that, he's been playing at the top level in Europe for quite a few years now. He's won the Champions League. It's not like Mandzukic who left Europe and went for some team who nobody's ever heard of before. I think Giroud's a person to break this so-called curse and just do what's expected of him and score a few goals.
I'm looking down the questions. We've got a couple that are roughly the same here. First one's from Pietro, who asks, with the money we've already spent and the amount we still need to spend, does our project risk regressing, particularly if we fail to get top 4? King Kaka then said, we've spent 60 million on 6 confirmed signings, but is it reasonable to conclude that our starting 11 is weaker than last season? Because we don't have a number 10 yet. And what will it take in the transfer window to improve that? Valid-ish points, but I mean, we knew what we were signing up for last season by getting these players on loan with option to buy. So if you call keeping the players that were good last season weakening the squad in some way, I don't really get that logic. But yes, we do still have to invest some money in a number 10.
The squad's gotten weaker in 2 positions, and one was goalkeeper, which was always going to happen. You're just not going to replace someone better than Donnarumma, even though Maignan might be world class. We don't know that yet, but I mean, Donnarumma was fantastic. Everyone knows that. And we don't have a starting number 10 right now. So yeah, it's weaker because it's a starting 10, not a starting 11. But once we get someone, then we can make that decision. But I don't think it's a big deal right now. There's 2 months left in the window, a month and a half.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Shoot, actually, a month and a half, yeah.
I agree. I think the only position now that we need to focus on is number 10. I think the areas that we've already identified is what we needed improvement on is in depth. People saying that Tonali, Tomori and Diaz are not real signings because they're already here, but if we didn't exercise the loan options, we'd have to replace them anyway. So we'd still spend that kind of money to replace them. So whether they want to believe it or not, the amount of fact is we've spent 60 million this window, which is a lot of money considering post-COVID.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that, when we signed all these players on loans with options, every single fan was excited. Like, oh, great, we don't have to pay that this summer.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
You knew we had it next summer, so you can't be mad at the deal now.
One thing I will say as well is 60 million spent, and it's Maignan, obviously, 25 years old, Tomori, 23 years old, Tonali, 21 years old. We own those players outright now. Brahim Diaz, loan with option, 21 years old. We've reinforced that young core without a doubt, and these are all assets that are only going to grow in value. So yeah, it's 60 million spent, but I'd argue that the sum of those assets is already probably 100 mil when you factor how much Tomori's worth and stuff. So these are wise business investments.
I think you can also look at it as that 6 players on an average of 10 million per player, and when you look at the players that we've signed, you could argue that most of them are a £10 million, 10 million, whatever you want to call it, signing. So I'm happy with the business so far. I think the only position we desperately need now is a number 10. People obviously will say about the right wing, forget my agenda about Sally, but we've had the highest finish in how many years? 2nd place with 2 right wingers that people don't think are good enough, but they've clearly done a good enough job because we've had someone that people will say Schuster is world class, he's a massive mace, blah blah blah, but we never made the Champions League. Then it clearly wasn't. It didn't fit the system. He wasn't good enough to play for us at the time, or he wasn't the right player for us. So I think the only position we need now is to replace Hakan's 20 goal contributions.
And a 4th midfielder. The AFCON thing has got me worried.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But I know what you mean. I think the right wing thing as well, it just depends if we can sell Samu or not. If we sell him, we obviously have to replace that role. And it might be someone like Darami from Copenhagen, someone young and exciting, and people might struggle to get behind that. But I'd say, had any of you heard of Salamakers before he arrived? You know, I'd say that about a lot of these unknown players that we're linked with or have signed. But just trust the people who know more about football than you.
I think every season fans want a big name signing just to get excited about. And when they look at the positions left to reinforce, they think, okay, right wing, let's get a big name right wing. Let's get a big name attacking midfielder. But we kind of got a big name striker, even though he's old and on the tail end of his career, and everyone acknowledges that. Like, Giroud's still a big name, and that might be the name. And then we're gonna do these more unknown players that you just believe can be good, and more often than not, they turn out to be a lot better than people anticipate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've answered that right.
He did say he's going to be looking towards the end of the market for the opportunities.
Opportunities, love it, Mr. X. It was
exactly.
I think
Brahim Diaz is like a new signing.
It kind of reminds me of like when we signed Bonucci. That was just an opportunity that arose, and we all thought it was an amazing sign at the time.
Yeah, nobody can argue with that. I don't care what anyone says. They hyped that deal.
Yeah, and it was just like I said, opportunity that arose, and we took it. And obviously, it didn't work out. But I'm sure that'll happen. You're always going to find players that are falling out of favour with the clubs, the managers, new managers, whatever. So I'm sure there'll be some that pop up, especially during like middle of August when they find out they're not getting minutes during pre-season, etc.
Luis Alberto.
Yeah. Hang on. Next question. We've got 2 questions to go, and I want to keep it under an hour, so let's answer them fairly quickly. Michael Gambino says, out of Sabitzer, Luis Alberto, or Vlasic. So those are the 3 playmaking names we're most heavily linked with at the moment. Taking in age, attitude, price, and performance, who's your choice?
I'm going to go Alberto. He knows the league, but he is the most expensive. Yeah.
I'm going to go Alberto. Don't like his attitude, the way that he's going about trying to leave Lazio, but he's the only one that I've really seen. And yeah, he knows the league, and we know what he's capable of. So it'd have to be him.
His attitude's bad, but can you blame him? Like, who wants to be a Lazio?
Well, he's actually joined up now for pre-season, so he's done a bit of a UE on that, but we'll see. The thing I like about the potential deal with Lazio is that we could include a counterpart, but we'd have to see who that is. I don't mind any of the 3, I'll be brutally honest. Like, you know, all of them know how to work on and off the ball, which is key for our number 10 role. I think Luis Alberto would be the most expensive, and I don't like dealing with Lotito. Sabitzer would still be my number 1 pick in that list. And Vlasic isn't a bad option either, but there'd definitely be apprehensions about him coming from Russia. It depends what we want. Do we want the ready-made guy for right now while Brahim develops, in which case it's Luis Alberto. But I think we can get the other 2 on cheaper deals.
I think that's what you've got to look at. If we are prepared to like try and develop Diaz into our future number 10, then you've got to go for the ready-made play now. The only thing that will put me off about Luis Alberto is the way that the Belia situation went down. 1 year left his contract, we haven't paid high wages, and he just completely flopped for us.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I still stand by it.
People say throw Castillejo in there, and it's not FIFA, guys. Like you can't just get rid of a player because we don't like him. Other players have got to be involved. It's not like, you know, Grimsby Town coming in with a 2 million offer for Castillejo and we accept it. It's just not straightforward. You've just got
I'd like to see that though. Yeah, and I stand by my thing. I'm going to stand by this until we end up inevitably signing someone we've been linked with, but still think the number 10 name might be something we haven't heard yet out there in the media. But anyway, final question. Dybala, yeah, maybe. That's kind of been out there, but yeah, I don't know. Now Max is back, we'll see. Greg Lind, final question. What constitutes a successful season for you this season? In the league, in the Champions League, and in the Cup? I'll go first. League, I want top 4 again. I don't think we're at Scudetto challenging just yet. I think Juve favourites again now. They've got Max back. The squad's not terrible. Inter in a bit of transition, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's reasonable for us to go into next season saying we should win the title. So I'd be happy with the top 4 finish again. Champions League, I'd be happy if we made it out of the groups. I think we're going to be shafted by the draw by getting 2 really strong teams like Inter on their return. And I want us to win the Cup. Let's win a trophy. You know? That's it.
Yeah, I'm going to agree actually with all of that, except I want to win the Cup, but I would be happy it would be a success if we made the final.
I'd agree with Ollie, but on it, I just don't think we're going to get the group stage. And I'm not going to be, depending on what draw we're given, I'm not going to be overly annoyed if we flunk out of the Champions League. I think the most important thing is finishing in the top 4 next season. But I do think we've got a good chance at the Scudetto now that we've improved our depth. But it just depends on how the market goes for the rest of the
I'd rather finish 4th than 3rd in the Champions League groups. Like, I don't want to go back to Europe at all.
If we're going to go out, I'd rather just go out and not worry about it and just try go. Then put all our eggs in the Scudetto basket.
Yeah. I think the way that our Champions League group draws looking proves how important UEFA coefficient is. So that's why we need another finish in the Champions League places, just to keep getting that ranking up, and then we've got a better chance of progressing. But don't rule out a team like us because of our history, etc. Just taking to it like a duck to water again, and it was surprising a few. I don't know. Maybe we could.
I'd like to think so like that, but then I also don't want the fans thinking just because we're called AC Milan that we're obligated to get to the final. Like, some of these players have never played in it. It's a young squad. There's a lot of pressure now. We're back in the Champions League. I'd just be happy if we don't get embarrassed, but if we go out at the group stage, then it is what it is. Well, it just depends on the draw.
It's going to be really tough with us being in pot 4, and most of the typical teams that are champions are in pot 2 this season because just about no regular team won their domestic league. So we're going to have a champion. We're going to have someone who probably should have been champion, like a PSG or a Barca. And then there's going to be that the pot 3 can make it or break it. If they're a nobody club, if they're not good, then we'll be good. But otherwise, it'll be rough.
The only thing that I don't like about UEFA is that, in my eyes, it should be all the winners going to pot 1, second place pot 2, third place pot 3, fourth place pot 4. That's just the way that I see it. I don't think it's fair that you get shafted for doing so well in your league because you missed out for a couple of years. Now you get given a bullshit draw. Personally, the way that I see it.
The problem with that then is, though, like, some of the teams from some of the leagues that go, you've got Olympiacos pot 1 then all of a sudden, and everyone's
but why should they be shafted just
different leagues? I guess. I know what you're saying. I know what you mean.
They're in a shit league. I mean, they've still won their respective league, and they shouldn't be punished just because the French league have got more money to spend, or the Premier League have got more money to spend. Hence why it's just where that I see it. I think the top ones, and then if you've got maybe, like you said, the Greek, the Scottish league, they might have to drop to pot 2 because they've only got one place in the Champions League, which is fair enough. But I think the top 5 leagues, it should be 1, 2, 3, 4.
Then you've got a decent spread, I suppose, of all the clubs as well. If it ends up like this season did, with a lot of shot finishes, that's it, innit? We've done everything we can, I suppose. Next week, do we have a friendly? Do we have a friendly this Saturday?
I think it's Valencia midweek on Thursday.
No, Valencia's August.
Oh, we don't have one. Nice is the next one on the 31st of July.
Oh, shoot. Okay. That's a long ways away.
I'm sure like a little,
Hold on.
Maybe like a red versus black.
Might pop up.
2 different. Yeah, probably Monza. Wasn't Galliani at this friendly yesterday?
No, he were at another friendly, but I know there were a picture of him, and Milan Twitter went wild for some reason.
Yeah.
Military's on Milan Twitter.
The Valencia game is meant to be on August 4th, apparently. No game next weekend. That's good, though. 2 weeks to get the players back in and everything. No doubt there'll be some transfer stuff to talk about next week. Maybe we'll try and get a guest on just to try and differ things a little bit. But thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, I'll say what I always say: hit like and subscribe, comment if you enjoyed it, turn on notifications, check out our merchandise store, follow us all on Twitter. But it's been a pleasure. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. AJ Casano.
Happy to be back. It was a lot of fun. We definitely went over Ollie's predicted 40-minute podcast episode, but
every time
we move.
Gian, saying what AJ said. Hopefully see you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you in a week's time.
Pronti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, gol!